TGCRequiem. Back with Modern Abzan Traverse, just realized, per usual, forgot to keep up the league updates. I'm trying to jam some matches in. I'm going to be out of town. We're on the play here. Even with the bauble, I don't think this is keepable. Nothing to do on turn one, no way to interact with our opponent. If we miss, we're just kind of dead in the water. This, however, is fine. And we're going to put it on top. It doesn't really matter. We're going to fetch for the old swamp. Death Shadow. Opponent's got visions, vision, shadow, thought, scour, snap. So I think here we're just going to take the more powerful card in Snapcaster Mage. They got a lot of redundancy. Oh, great. Inquisition. Probably should have waited till their turn to do that, actually. That was just sloppy play on my part. Well, in the end, they're going to just end up taking our own Inquisition with their Inquisition, presumably, yeah. Opponent really I don't know. I don't really have anything we can kill with Collective Brutality. I think we just kind of go after maybe one of their Thought Scours here. Possibly a Serum Visions. Maybe I'll set up a couple draws in a row. I think definitely taking the Serum Visions is just the more powerful card. They would have been able to go Serum Visions, Serum Visions. Here they'll Serum Visions, probably Thought Scour. So I did hit a Gurmag Angler here. And for that reason, we're going to play the Overgrown Tomb. Just want to get into a position where maybe we can draw a Liliana. They're going to be able to get a Shadow down. Thought Scour. So now we don't know anything in our opponent's hand. And they have turned on pretty good clock here. So we do have the potential to at least hold off their Shadow with the Kalitas. Certainly we're not doing anything with the Gurmag Angler, but that does buy us one extra turn, 2 extra turns really. So they could have the ability to grow the Death Shadow with a Street Wraith, but I think we just have to take the chance on them not having the ability to grow it. So they're going to do 2 damage to themselves, make us discard a card. And I guess we're not technically dead here. The steam vents come in. If we draw a removal, we might still be alive for another turn. So that's game. Opponent's probably not too scared. Can't imagine any reason why they wouldn't just attack with everything. Alright, and we are going to lose... So, didn't really draw the right cards for that matchup. Collective Brutality, Kalitas, and a bunch of lands. Not really our ideal game plan here. So Shriekmaw for sure. I think Big Game Hunter looks good here. Maelstrom Pulse. We don't need any... Fulminator Mage, possibly, if we see them bring in white. We talked to another viewer about this in chat, or comments, that and if they are playing white for like Lingering Souls in the post-board matchups, they're being pretty aggressive with their mana base, and you could probably attack it, but I don't know that we want to bring it in otherwise. I personally think Liliana, the Last Hope, is excellent in the matchup. All the Lilianas are great. Collective Brutality, I'm kind of iffy. I kind of like to leave one just to potentially snag an opponent that puts themselves too low. Maybe kind of finish them off that way. I prefer to pull as much hand disruption as I can in these kind of pseudo mirrors. So we're just going to leave a couple Thoughtseize. I think we like most of the rest of this. Kalitas is not great, and I think with these other creatures, even though they're not big and their impact, it's possible that's what we want to do. Damnation could also be alright. I mean, they do run more creatures than we do. We're going to bring one Fulminator Mage in. Kalitas is just a little slow. And Fulminator Mage does play well for Liliana, the Last Hope. Again, I'm not about going all in on this at all, but I don't mind having one in there. So this is fine. It looks worse than it is. So turn 1 forest into a swamp. That gives us access to Grimflayer or Abrupt Decay. If our opponent ends up Thoughtseizing us or Inquisitioning us, takes our Grimflayer, then we can just go... no, we can't go get another... I still think it's fine, though. I mean, we're going to draw 2 more cards by the time we get to that point. Games are going to be a little grindier, so we should have more time to draw into lands. I shouldn't say they are going to be grindier. They tend to be grindy, and so there's going to be plenty of time to draw into lands. But sometimes the opponents can have a very quick draw. Surgical Extraction's pretty good here. Throughout the Grimflayer, we're fine if they want to Fatal Push us. Expect probably a Thought Scour or push. Yep. We could consider surgically extracting the push. Kind of wait and see what our opponent does here. I think while this is on the stack, we're just going to go after the fatal push. This will make it harder for them to delve. They can't stubborn denial this. So they did have one in hand. Delving wasn't really a possibility for them. Opponent did keep in all their hand disruption. I brought in some counter squalls. Interesting. And so they're going to Liliana. We have an answer to Liliana and Abrupt Decay. Let's take a screenshot of this. So the opponent's going to plan to play Liliana, so we'll just discard Lingering Souls to that. We can, in response, Abrupt Decay their Liliana. Opponent pitches another Delta, so we do know at this point that they are played Watery Grave. Oh, and they played the Liliana. So they have a Kolaghan's Command to terminate Snapcaster. We're going to go black, green here. And then we'll just flashback this. Lingering Souls. Next turn we'll plan to probably go with like Traverse into... Alright, so Grim Flare is pretty good here as well. I'm going to start with just some combat. They have to use spells. They couldn't block with their Snapcaster Mage. If we play Liliana, what are they going to do? So we can play Liliana and Traverse. If we play Liliana, they're going to maybe Kolaghan's Command it. Most likely they're going to Snapcaster Mage, attack, Kolaghan's Command it. Maybe returning a Street Wraith to hand. If we play a Grim Flare, yeah, I think we're just going to have to make them start discarding here. And that may mean that we just have to pitch the Traverse, so we leave the mana open for Traverse, but really want the Flare. So the opponent pitches the Terminate. They still have the Snapcaster Mage. So the Terminate's still plenty live. And then they're going to use the Terminate now. So now this makes us feel a little more comfortable with our Grim Flare next turn. Opponent has a Kolaghan's Command in hand. and some other card. Alright, so they're going to make us discard a card. 2 damage to Liliana, attack with a Snapcaster Mage. That gets rid of Liliana, but again, we're running more Lilianas in our deck. The odds of us drawn into something like that a bit higher. And we're just going to save the Mishra's Bauble here. We don't need to know what's on top of their deck. We're going to see either that or it's going to be some sort of instant speed spell. So now we'll take a peek at the top of their deck. We see they have a Delta coming. We'll get 2 cards here. Hopefully they're good. Opponent has us on a 8-turn clock. We have them on a 4-turn clock. Got a Counter Squall coming up next, so now would be a good turn to get a spell down. Counter Squall still doesn't do a whole lot against creatures or the creatures we have on the battlefield or the creatures we cast. So for reference, these are the cards we know our opponent has. Now they have a Tassiger coming up next. That's a little more relevant. And the Fulminator Mage is actually not as bad as it maybe looks here. It is going to cause the opponent to have to kind of refrain a little bit. So there's one more card our opponent has. We don't know what it is. One would assume it's a land. They didn't play their other land despite us knowing about it. So now they're going to run out their Tassiger, and really what we're kind of hoping for at this point is like Big Game Hunter or Shriekmaw. Can't be countered. Jeez. The opponent goes to block the Fulminator Mage, and we'll just kind of blow up one of their lands in response. And we'll give them Stubborn Nile, just choke them on counter magic. And then if our opponent does not have a Lightning Bolt, They just Thoughtseize to concede the game. Are they gonna counter squall their own Thoughtseize? Alright, so we get there. We'll be on the draw for the final game, the rubber match as they call it, and in that regard I'll actually make sure to update the match here to show that we're 1-1. Based on what we saw from our opponent, I mean, if we take a peek at their deck, couple Kolaghan Command, a couple Terminate, nothing. I mean, we just know that they're pulling a lot of their, or they're keeping a lot of their hand disruption in, a lot of counter magic. I think it's probably worth bringing in the Grafdigger's Cage on the draw. I think on the draw the Fulminator's a little too slow. Beyond that though, I'm still just happy with the 2 Thoughtseize. Well, that is just a ugly, ugly hand. Can't really do anything with what we have here. I mean, we're going to get 2 to 3 draws, which maybe we'll have the ability to cast something by the time it's relevant. Then again, Lingering Souls is actually pretty strong here, and having access to 2 of them, you know, our opponent's not going to be putting a creature down turn 1 or turn 2. Maybe we do just keep this, and then hope to bobble into a fetch land.